I get a lot of emails and messages from people that are interested in getting started investing in UK stocks, but the most common, I guess, issue is the fear of getting started, the fear of losing money, the fear of making a mistake, not quite knowing what to do. And so I've spent many years helping other people get started and holding their hand and through the process of buying their first stocks, essentially. And I wanted to do a series, a kind of a getting started series on my YouTube channel to help those people, to help other people like yourself perhaps, who wants to get started investing in UK stocks, but wants to do so responsibly and safely without making big mistakes that are going to cost them money. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you my top 5 tips on getting started to invest in UK stocks. Hey there guys, my name is Christian Worth. I am a stock analyst. I have been researching and analysing stocks now for a number of years. I focus primarily on UK stocks right now, although we're moving into US in the next probably 6 months or so. And this video is my top 5 tips to getting started investing in UK stocks. If you want to know how to do it without losing your money and doing it safely and responsibly, then I can help add value in that realm, I suppose. And so let's get started. Okay, so tip number 1 may seem kind of obvious, but the first tip is to only invest surplus income. Now, bear with me because I know that probably sounds a bit like duh, but having worked now with a huge amount of beginner investors, we're talking about, I think I've worked now with about 2,700 people at last count, and that's over about 9 years. The common issue that I tend to see with beginners is that they get 6 months in, they build up a portfolio, they start pumping a bit of money into that portfolio, they start acquiring stocks, they're building this asset base up, and then something comes along in life and they have to withdraw the money. And it's the number 1 killer of growth, because compounding growth requires money. Money makes money, that old saying. And it's true, when you're trying to make 20% annual average return a year, the more money you've got in there, the quicker it's going to grow. So it's like a bell curve, right? It grows quicker and quicker the more money that's in there. And when you start going in and taking chunks of it out, it cripples your growth and it adds years, sometimes even decades, onto the amount of time it's going to take for you to get to your target. It's the number 1 thing I say to my members, do not take your money out of there. And so when you're starting out investing, you really need to be honest with yourself about, can I afford to do this? Can I afford to be pumping money into this investment portfolio and building up this portfolio of great stocks? Do I have the surplus income to do it? Or am I going to need to take some of that money out in 6 months' time for something that might come along? You need to be honest with yourself about that, because if you find that you end up taking money out, it's going to cripple you. And it's really common. You'd be amazed at just how common it is that people do that people end up taking money back out of these accounts. And it's a real shame to see it happen. And so if you're in that situation where you possibly would need that money, then my advice to you is it's not time for you to start investing. You shouldn't progress. You should not start investing in UK stocks. Instead, where your focus probably needs to be is in raising your income, so that you have surplus income that you don't need for other things, that you can then commit to invest in and not need to pull it out 6 months, a year down the line. And there are ways to grow your income. There are ways to do this. I actually wrote a book on this particular subject called Make More Money From Today, which is available on Amazon. That's not a plug, although it kind of is. But for literally an investment of £9.99, unless you can get it secondhand on Amazon, which you might be able to nowadays, that investment in that book will teach you how to make way more than £9.99 straight off the bat. but it'll also teach you how to raise your income, and it's practical ways to do it. And it's not, asking for a raise of your boss and stuff like that. This is a proper law of money and how money works. And that is probably the best bet for you right now, rather than trying to invest when you're not ready. Hey there guys, before I go any further in this video, I just want to say, if you're finding this valuable in any way, and if you find you are interested in the investment of long-term UK stocks, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Please give this video a like. And if you want to say hi, leave a comment in the underneath the video, and I'll get back to everybody on the comments. So that would be cool, just to say hi. Thank you very much, and let's dive back in. Tip number 2, I would recommend that you open a stocks and shares ISA. There are many different types of ISAs out there, but a stocks and shares ISA specifically allows you to control which stocks are in your portfolio. So instead of tracking the FTSE 100, which would be a terrible investment in my opinion, I think the FTSE's only gone up 0.7% in the last 9 years, so it's not a great benchmark. Instead of allowing a money manager to make those decisions for you, a stocks and shares ISA allows you to retain full control. And when you know what you're doing, which eventually will come when you analyze and you study and you research these stocks, it gives you the full control over it. An ISA, predominantly, the reason why I like an ISA as such is because of the tax-free returns. So with a stocks and shares ISA in the UK, as of 2022, at the time of recording this video, you get a £20,000 tax ceiling, I suppose. So in other words, the first £20,000 that you pump into your portfolio, the profits off that are tax-free, the tax-free profits. And it's not just tax-free profits in year 1, but also year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, up to year 20. And so that £20,000 that you pump in, or up to £20,000 threshold, the profits are always going to be tax-free off that. The beauty of this is that next year it refreshes. So, I mean, even if you reached your £20,000 in year 1, you'd be able to put in another £20,000 in year 2, and that would be tax-free profits as well. The profits off of that would be tax-free. And so what that means is that for the vast majority of beginners, that is more than adequate. I don't even invest £20,000 a year. I'm not even at that threshold. And so, if you were going to put in £250 a month, you're probably looking at about £3,000 a year. So, I mean, £3,000 a year, any profit that you make off that £3,000 that you pump in will be tax-free, and it will always be tax-free. And then the next year, when you put in another £3,000, that will be tax-free profits as well, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so you won't be paying tax on the profits. And so that's why stocks and shares ISA for me is probably the best bet for a beginner, in my opinion. Now, there are a number of different stocks and share ISA providers in the UK. If you want any help in getting started with looking at the more reputable ones, I have a link in my description underneath this video, which will point you towards a blog post that I've done comparing the top 3. I would recommend going with somebody more reputable rather than these kind of new fad kind of startup companies. There are companies out there that will entice new members in because they don't have the reputation, and they'll do so using these gimmicks and fads, such as no commission on trades. Well, that's all well and good, but what you tend to find once you've opened an account with these no commission companies is that half the stocks you want to buy they don't have available, and you also pay more on the spread. So let's say there's a stock you want to buy that's about £10 a share. Well, with this company you'll be paying £10.50 a share. They'll have to make their money somehow, and if you've got a deal where you're not paying any commission on a trade, then on a purchase of stock, then they're making their money out of you in another way. You have to pay the fee somehow, and so don't get drawn in by these little gimmicks and fads. In fact, it's probably better to stick with a reputable company that have access to all of the stocks that you're going to want to be buying. And so if you look at my blog post, you'll see the top 3 in my opinion, and I'm not affiliated with any of these companies or anything like that at all, but take a look, and that's probably a good starting place for you. Tip number 3, you've got to do your own research. This is absolutely key to success on the stock market. If you don't do it, you won't make money. It's that simple. So what do I mean by this? Well, you've got to understand the company you're investing in. I'll give you an example. If you're going to buy a company for £10 a share, right? And it doesn't matter what the company is. Let's just say you bought this company at £10 a share, and you've got no real reason for buying this stock. You bought the stock because you've heard of it before, or you like the product or the service that they've done, or you've used the product or service that they produce, and you've just gone, they'll do. That's the company I'm going to invest in. I like the look of them, or I like the product. And you bought them for £10 a share. And let's say 6 months goes by and the price has fallen down to £8 a share. What do? Do you sell those shares because they've gone down in value by 20%? Well, listen, if you're going to invest in companies and then you're going to sell them for 20% discount of what you paid for them, that's a bad investment strategy. You're probably not going to make money that way. So what's the alternative? Well, you hold on to it. Well, that's going to be difficult emotionally and psychologically, because now you've got this stock that you own that's fallen in value and you don't know whether it's going to come back up. And let's say you hold on to it and it goes down to £6 a share, and then the next month it's down to £5 a share, so it's now 50% less than what you paid for it. What do? You won't know what to do, because you got into this stock with no reason behind getting into that stock. There was no investment decision made. It was just you bought it because you like the look of it. This is what so many beginner investors do. Like I say, I've worked with so many of these guys now, and it's so common that they'll come to me and they'll say, my portfolio is hemorrhaging money. I'm making terrible mistakes. I'm losing a load of money. Can you take a look at my portfolio for me? Tell me where I'm going wrong. And I'll look at their portfolio and just say, it's all just rubbish. You've just bought a load of rubbish. That's why you're doing so badly. And here is why, and that's crucial. They've got to understand why are these companies rubbish. And the majority of beginners will come into investing and they'll buy the same old companies that everyone else does. They'll buy Tesco, they'll buy BP, they'll buy British Telecom, BT, they'll buy Royal Mail, Centrica, British staple companies, household names, companies that they just assume are going to be good investments and good stocks to buy. And when you actually do the analysis and you research these companies, you'll realize straight away these are terrible investments. I'll give you an example with Tesco. Tesco make about 1% profit a year on a good year. Other years they make a loss. Other years it's kind of break even. When they make a profit, they make about 1%. So of all the revenue that comes in, and we're talking billions, Tesco make billions in revenue, they keep about 1% after they've paid everything off. 1% is not enough to reinvest into a business to grow that business. It's just not enough money to grow a £1 billion business. 1% is not going to cut it. It's not going to do enough. And so they can't grow. They've reached that kind of pinnacle. They've reached the height of growth. They're not going to be able to get anywhere. And when you look at the financials, you'll see that. You can also see that in the share price, in so much that 20 years ago, the share price of Tesco was about £2.50 a share. And today, the share price of Tesco is about £2.50 a share. And so you don't want to be investing in a company that hasn't gone anywhere in 20 years and is therefore highly unlikely to go anywhere in the next 20 years. And this is why investors, beginners lose money. This is why they lose money, because they invest in the wrong companies, because they don't know how to research and they don't know they don't think to look under what's going on in that particular business. Now listen, research is hard. Research is difficult. It takes not only the skill and the expertise to know what you are looking for and how to read what you're seeing, but also the time. I do this full time, 7 days a week pretty much, unless I've got my kids at the weekend, and I have 2 assistants. So that's how much time it takes to do this. But listen, if you are a beginner and you're just getting started out, you can go out there and you can do your own research. You can learn how to do it. I believe anybody can learn how to analyze stocks and do their own research. But if you don't have the time and the inclination to do that, then you can come and join me. This is what I do. I'm already researching these companies. I'm already doing all the research and the analysis of these stocks. And I'm already sharing this with my existing members. So instead of you just duplicating the work I'm already doing, you can come and join our membership group, and there's a link in the description underneath. But if you don't want to do that, that's absolutely cool. My advice to you though is that you must do your own research. If you're not going to join anybody else and get your research from other sources that you trust and that has a track record of success, then you need to do it yourself. And that's absolutely crucial. You got to understand what you're investing in and why. Because, for example, there's a company that I invest in. They make 20% profit a year. Every branch they open is profitable within 2 years, and each branch makes about £2 million profit from year 2 onwards. It's £2 million profit per branch. This is a company that have dominated the UK. They've still got a few branches they're opening up in the UK over the next couple of years, but they're now expanding into France and Germany. They've run pilots in both countries. They've both done very, very well. In France, they've now opened about 25 branches. All those branches are now profitable and doing well. They plan to now open another 20 branches in France per year. So when you work that out, okay, well, 20 branches in France per year, those 20 branches are going to be making about 2 million in profit every single year in 2 years' time. They're going to branch out into France, and you can do the maths. You can work out how profitable that's going to be. When this stock goes from £10 to £8, let's say, I'm buying more, because I know exactly what I'm investing in. I understand my investment. If you're investing in a company and you don't understand why you're investing in them, you can't do that, because you don't know what's going to happen. Whereas I know the companies that I'm investing in have a very good future ahead of them and they're going to do well. And so I'll happily pay £8, even £5 a share for this company, despite it being 50% cheaper, because I know long term it's going to do very, very well. That's the importance of research. My number 4 tip is don't follow the crowd. Listen, this is a sector, this is an industry where there are a hell of a lot of people who have no track record, that really don't know what they're doing, that are buying any old stock that they think, could be good for the wrong reasons, yet they feel compelled to tell you what to invest your money into. They will happily tell you what you should be doing and what you should be buying. And I believe that a vast majority of that, especially when it comes to everyday people like you and me, out there telling everybody what they should be buying, I believe it's validation of their own decisions. They're looking for validation of their own investment decisions. They'll be telling you the stocks they advise you and tell you to buy. These will be companies that they've probably bought themselves, and they're looking for validation that they've done the right thing. And this is bad advice for you, because it's not based on the right measures. You want to be doing your own research, of course, as we've been saying. In my book that I wrote a few years ago, I talked about a company who produced stock picks. They email these stock picks out to beginner investors, and they would recommend these particular companies, and I would look at these particular companies and think, no, you do not want to be investing in these companies. These are terrible picks. And I decided to go back to their historical picks that they'd been making, sort of 2016, 2017. And I took a look and I looked to see, okay, who were you guys recommending back then and how have these companies done several years later? And 95% of these picks were terrible. They'd worked out very poorly. And you could understand why, because when you researched the numbers and you looked at the financials, you could see that these were companies in trouble. Another kind of little clue to this issue, I suppose, was the fact that on these reports or these emails that they would send out recommending certain stocks, there would be something in the small print at the bottom that would say that this particular analyst does not hold any shares in this company they're recommending. And I would think to myself, why is it okay for me to buy this but not for you to buy it? It doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's not good enough for you, then it's not good enough for me, surely, and it felt disingenuous. I didn't trust it. And so when looking at the actual financials and seeing this is a company I would never have invested in, these were companies with large debts, with no profits, that had no way of paying off those debts. And the reasons that these analysts would recommend these stocks were very vague. They had a good PE ratio, or this sector's likely to do well in the future, or the clothing sector's set for a big boost in the next few years. And it was just absolute tosh, absolute rubbish, twaddle. And they recommended Quiz PLC, this clothing company, and they were talking about, this particular analyst was talking about how Quiz PLC were a clothing company connected to Debenhams, had great things ahead of them, that you wanted to get into this stock. One particular company recommended a stock called Quiz PLC. This was a clothing company, and this recommendation was back in 2017, 2018, that sort of time, I think. And they were recommending this business and saying these guys are destined for a wonderful future. They're a clothing company connected to Debenhams. They have everything going for them, and you don't want to miss out on this wonderful opportunity to buy more shares in this company. Well, about 6 months after that article came out, the share price dropped about 80% in value. And when you look at the financials before that analyst report came out, you could see this was a company with increasing levels of debt that were seeing revenues fall, had a trend of falling revenues, had a trend of falling profits, and didn't really have much of a strategy on how they were going to grow. And there was no indication there of how they were going to pay off this increase in debt. So all the hallmarks of a stock that I would never touch, I would never have gone anywhere near them. And yet this analyst, who is apparently a professional, was sending out these reports to people telling them that this is the company they should be buying, but in the small print saying they didn't own any shares themselves. And I just thought, this is crazy. That think of the thousands of people that will read that and off the back of that email go out and buy shares in this company and lose money. It was almost disgusting. So my recommendation is, don't follow the crowd. They don't know what they're talking about. Listen, years ago I was told when I first started driving, assume everyone else on the road is mental, right? Is crazy. And you'll be safe. You'll probably get home, right? I think the same should be applied to the stock market. When you've got all these people in Facebook groups, on Reddit, in blogs, in message boards, all telling you what they think is going to happen, just assume they're all crazy. Don't read into it. Do your own research, follow your own path, and don't let other people sway you into making purchases, because it's not the way to invest. That's not a clever investment strategy. Final tip number 5, don't predict, use facts. Listen, what a lot of beginner investors tend to do is they tend to go down the route of predicting. They feel like that is the stock market, that you need to predict the stock market. This is something that I don't do whatsoever. I don't recommend that you do it. None of my members do it. It's a very different way of treating the stock market, but it's the way that makes you money. So with what a lot of beginner investors do is they will come in, they'll have to try and work out what stocks to buy, and they start to get too clever for their own good. They start to try and predict what's going to happen. They'll think, well, electric vehicles are doing well, and they run off lithium batteries, so lithium batteries are going to be really important. So let's find a company that sell lithium batteries, and they just invest. They just jump straight in. They'll look at wind farms, they'll look at AI, they look at robotics, and all the different exciting emerging technologies that are coming out right now. And they'll look at those and try to find companies to invest in within those sectors. It's a lovely idea, don't get me wrong. And I would not ever put somebody off from doing that, right? I think it's great if you've got these ideas. I think they definitely have a place in investing. However, you want to be investing in companies that have proven that they can make money through these new technologies, or whatever it is you feel is this new exciting phase. Because what a lot of investors are doing is they're predicting these companies will make money. And so I'll get emails from from people saying, Chris, what do you think of this particular company? Because I really rate them. So I'll take a look. I've analysed every company out the London Stock Exchange, so I can very quickly bring up my analysis and I can take a quick look and see, what do I think of this company and why am I not already investing in them? And there'll be a reason why. And it's usually, this company are losing, they're not making any money, revenue's not really growing, they are making a loss, and they have incredible amount of debt that they can't pay off right now. And so I'd say, these are the reasons why I'm not particularly interested in this company. They don't make any money, they're hemorrhaging cash, they've got too much debt that they've got no way of paying it off, and they would come back and say, well, yeah, but this company makes lithium batteries for electric vehicles, or they make wind farms, or they make solar panels. Like, they're going to be huge. And I would say, my response to that is, well, that's cool, and I'm glad you think that, but many, many companies that do this don't become huge. They are not successful. Most pioneers in certain fields aren't the ones that end up being successful. It's usually the companies that come further down the line that kind of work off those pioneers, those first new kids on the block sort of thing. And so my argument is that I'm not interested in this particular company because they're not showing that they can make any money. And the argument usually is, well, yeah, but they're going to be huge. Clearly, this is a good investment because in years to come, they might not be making money now, but they probably will in the future. My response to that is essentially, cool, that's great. So when they start making money, I'll become interested. When they start making when the revenue starts to grow up and there's a consistent trend of growing revenue and people adopting this technology and companies signing contracts and they're growing and the money's coming in, even just signing contracts isn't enough. I want to see the money coming in. And the fact that they can prove that they can run that business and sell that product or service and still manage to keep a profit after all the costs have been spent, and that they're reinvesting that profit in the right way into certain types of growth strategies that I like. When I see signs of all of that, then I'm interested. Then that's a company I want to get involved in. Until that happens, I'm not getting involved. What that means is that we can end up being late for the party. We can wait for these revenues to come in. We can wait for the profits to start going up. We can wait for the trends and the patterns and the proof that everything is going well before we invest. And it means we're sometimes late to the party. The alternative, though, is that you try and get in before anybody else does, when the share price is still in the pennies, before any evidence of any success. And yeah, okay, you might be the first person to arrive at that party, but you then find out there is no party, that no one else is coming, that you end up just being on your own and you lose all your money. And so I would much rather be late to the party but be assured that there is a party to attend. Does that make sense? Does that analogy make sense? I hope it does. And so my advice to you as a beginner is not to predict. Don't predict the stock market. Focus on facts. Invest in companies that have a proven track record of success and have a good, strong growth strategy ahead of them that they're going to continue to grow in that way. There are companies out there that tick all those boxes, and if you do your research, you'll find them. Okay, so that is my top 5 tips to getting started. To very briefly recap, tip number 1 was to only invest surplus income that you have. Tip number 2 was to open a stocks and shares ISA. I think they're the best model. Tip number 3 was to make sure you do your own research. Number 4 was to make sure you're not following everybody else and to actually just follow your own path. And number 5 was try not to predict the stock market. Instead, look for facts. Look for confirmation of your predictions at the very least. I hope that's been useful. I hope it's added value. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it. Please subscribe to the channel. Consider subscribing. And if you want to, leave a comment underneath the video. I reply to every single comment that gets left. And it'd be nice to say hi. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope it's been useful. See you soon. Cheers, guys.